The twin suns of Colony 9 were setting when John Miller walked through the narrow streets of the alien market. The air smelled of strange spices and burning metal. Small alien creatures ran between his feet, carrying glowing fruits and jars filled with smoke. Traders shouted in many languages, their voices echoing between metal walls. John had only come to buy meat. He had worked 12 hours fixing power lines on the outer dome, and all he wanted was to cook dinner and sleep. But the market tonight felt wrong. He looked around carefully. The usual laughter and noise were gone. Aliens were whispering instead of shouting. Some stalls were closed, their lights dim. A few traders even pulled their children closer when John passed. John was human, one of the few who lived in this colony far from Earth. Normally people respected humans here, but tonight everyone seemed afraid. He stopped at a stall run by a short, gray-skinned alien with golden eyes. The table was full of frozen meats wrapped in plastic. "You got any Terran beef?" John asked. The alien blinked slowly and nodded. Yes. Fresh from orbit freezer. But maybe you want to see something better." John frowned. "Better than meat?" The alien smiled, showing sharp teeth. He pulled a silver curtain behind the counter. "Come, human, look." At first, John saw only darkness. Then, under the dim blue light, he saw a figure sitting inside a metal cage. The figure moved slightly. A woman. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing. Her hair floated around her like strands of light. And her eyes, violet and shining, looked straight at him. For a moment, John forgot to breathe. She was beautiful, but not human. "What is this?" John asked. "A slave," the alien whispered. "Widowed. Strong. Good price." John stepped back. "You're selling a person?" The alien raised his hands. "She is not person, she is Vega, dangerous. You buy, or she goes back to the mines." The woman in the cage spoke softly. Her voice was calm but filled with pain. "Please, don't let them take me back." Her accent was strange, her words slow and careful. But John understood every one. He looked at her closer. There was a small mark on her neck, glowing faintly blue, like a tattoo made of light. "What's that on your neck?" he asked. She looked around quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. "Don't let them see it," she whispered. "Please." The alien snapped, "Enough talk," and threw a cover over the cage. "You buy or go?" John's heartbeat quickened. Every instinct told him to walk away. This wasn't his problem. He just wanted dinner, not trouble with alien slavers. But something deep inside him, and maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, made him stay. "How much?" he asked quietly. The alien's eyes widened. "You buy?" "Maybe. How much?" The trader named a price so high that John laughed. "You think I'm stupid?" he said. The alien hissed. "She is Vega, royal blood. If you don't buy, others will. And they will not be kind." John stared at the covered cage. He didn't know what kind of royal she was. He didn't even know why she was here. But he couldn't shake the feeling that if he walked away now, something terrible would happen. Finally, he said, "Half that price. And you forget I was here." The alien thought for a moment, then nodded quickly. "Deal. Take her. Fast." John transferred the credits through his wrist chip. The cage door opened with a metallic click. The woman stepped out slowly. She was taller than he expected, her movements smooth but tired. "What's your name?" John asked. She hesitated. "Lyra," she said softly. "From Vega System." John nodded. "I'm John. Come on. Let's get out of here." They walked through the narrow market streets. John felt eyes following them. A few traders whispered and pointed. Somewhere behind him, he heard the alien merchant making a quick call in a language John didn't understand. By the time they reached the transport stop, the suns had fully set. The streets were glowing with neon lights, but John couldn't shake the chill crawling down his spine. Inside the small hover bus, Lyra sat silently beside him, her hands folded. Her silver skin reflected the lights like glass. "You okay?" he asked. She turned her head slowly. "You should not have bought me," she said. "Now you are part of it." "Part of what?" Lyra looked out the window, her expression distant. "The hunt." Before John could ask more, a red light flashed above them. Outside the bus window, 2 hover drones appeared, scanning the street below. Their beams of red light moved slowly, searching faces. Lyra grabbed his arm. "They're looking for me," she whispered. "If they find us, we both die." John's stomach turned cold. He had no idea who these people were or why they wanted her, but something told him that this was just the beginning. As the drones flew closer, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter like stars in the dark. She whispered something in a language he didn't know. The bus lights flickered, and suddenly, everything went black. In the silence, John heard her voice again. "You wanted meat, human, but you bought your fate." The bus stopped with a loud hiss. Outside, the drones hovered, their red eyes shining through the darkness. And John Miller, simple engineer from Earth, realized that tonight, the market had sold him more than he could ever imagine. The market was silent after the lights went out. Only the sound of wind moved through the empty alleys. When power returned, the drones were gone. The other traders had vanished too, leaving behind flickering lamps and the smell of burnt circuits. John stood still for a moment, breathing hard. His heart was pounding in his chest. He turned toward Lyra, the alien woman he had just bought. Her eyes were still glowing, faintly violet. "What did you do?" he whispered. Lyra looked down at her hands. "I made them blind only for a moment." Her voice was soft, but her words felt heavy. John didn't know what she meant, and he didn't want to ask. He just wanted to get away from the market before someone came back. They walked quickly through the dark streets toward the transport stop again. John's boots echoed against the metal floor. Lyra moved quietly beside him, her long silver hair catching the dim light. Every few steps she glanced over her shoulder, like someone used to running. When they reached his small apartment dome, John pressed his wrist chip to the door scanner. The light blinked green and the door slid open. Inside, everything was plain: a small kitchen, a sleeping pod, and a worn-out sofa. Lyra stepped inside slowly, looking around like a stranger on a new planet. "This is where you live?" she asked. "Yeah," John said, taking off his jacket. "It's not much, but it's quiet." She touched the wall gently, feeling the faint vibration of the dome's energy shield. "It hums," she said. John smiled a little. That's the sound of safety. But he didn't feel safe. Not tonight. He poured 2 cups of warm water and handed one to her. She held it carefully, like she had never touched glass before. "You can rest here for the night," he said. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do." Lyra didn't answer. She was staring at the reflection in the window, 2 shapes sitting under the dull blue lights of the colony sky. Finally, she said quietly, "You should not have bought me, John Miller." He turned to her. "Why not? You were trapped in a cage." "I was trapped for a reason." There was a long silence. Then she pulled the collar of her robe slightly aside. John saw the mark again, the glowing blue symbol under her skin. It looked like a small circle surrounded by tiny moving lines, as if alive. "This mark," she said slowly, "is not a tattoo. It is a code." "A code?" She nodded. "It holds my name, my bloodline, and my crime." John frowned. "What crime?" Lyra's eyes met his. "Existing." She stood and walked to the window, watching the faint lights of the colony towers outside. "My people lived in the Vega system, a rich world full of light and oceans. When the humans came, they called it a new frontier. They promised peace, but they brought soldiers. One of them took me. He said I would be safe as his wife. He was a general." Her hands shook slightly. "When he died, they said I killed him. Maybe I did." John didn't know what to say. He was no soldier, just a repairman. But her words cut deep. Humans had built this colony on alien soil. Maybe she was right to hate them, Look, he said softly. Whatever happened, you're not going back. You're safe here. Lyra turned toward him. Safe? She laughed quietly, a sad sound. Do you think the Empire forgets its property? At that moment, the lights flickered again. A small red dot appeared on the wall, moving slowly like a laser sight. John froze. What is that? Lyra whispered. They found us. Before he could move, the apartment's security screen buzzed. A robotic voice spoke. Resident John Miller, you are harboring stolen royal property. Surrender the Vega subject immediately or face termination. John's stomach twisted. He looked at Lyra. She was calm, too calm. We have to go, she said. How? There's nowhere to hide. She stepped closer, her violet eyes glowing brighter. There is always somewhere. She touched his arm, and suddenly, the air around them shimmered. John felt a cold wave pass through his body. For a second, everything went silent. Outside, through the window, 3 dark drones hovered, scanning the room. But when their light swept over John and Lyra, they saw nothing. They can't see us? John whispered. Not while I hold you, Lyra said softly. But it will not last long. He could feel her trembling. Whatever she was doing, it was costing her strength. Downstairs, John said quickly. There's a maintenance tunnel. It connects to the underlevels. They moved carefully, silent as shadows, through the narrow stairs. The sound of drones buzzed faintly behind them. Lyra stumbled once, and John caught her. Her skin felt cold and colder than metal as they reached the lower corridor. Lyra looked back one last time. They will keep coming, she whispered. You can still leave me here. John shook his head. I'm not that kind of man. For the first time, she smiled. A small, tired smile. Then you are already marked. What do you mean? You helped a Vega, she said softly. The Empire will never forgive that. Above them, the ceiling trembled with the sound of engines, drones, soldiers. They were closing in fast. John grabbed a flashlight and pointed toward the tunnel ahead. Let's move. As they disappeared into the darkness, a voice echoed through the colony's speakers. All units. Target confirmed. Human male and Vega female. Do not let them escape. And far above, in the cold night sky of Colony 9, a warship turned its lights toward the planet. The tunnel was dark and cold. Drops of water fell from pipes above, echoing like slow heartbeats. John's flashlight cut a thin line through the darkness as he led Lyra deeper underground. Behind them, faint sounds of drones still hummed, undistant but getting closer. John whispered, These tunnels connect to the maintenance grid. If we keep moving, we can reach the lower docks. Lyra didn't reply. Her steps were uneven, her breath shaky. The glow from the mark on her neck flickered weakly like a dying star. John slowed down. You okay? She nodded, though her voice trembled. That power I used, it drains me. What was that? He asked quietly. You made us disappear. That's not tech. Lyra leaned against the tunnel wall, closing her eyes. It's not, it's what they wanted to control, what they marked inside me. He frowned. You mean the thing on your neck? She opened her eyes again, and for a moment the mark pulsed brighter, lighting up the tunnel walls. Yes, she whispered. They called it the Mark of Origin. It's a living code made from ancient Vega energy. It carries the memories of my people, and the key to a weapon that could destroy planets. John stared at her. You're saying that thing is alive? It learns, Lyra said quietly. It feels, and it remembers. Every time I use its power, it burns part of me. The silence that followed was heavy. The only sound was the low hum of pipes and John's heartbeat in his ears. Finally, he said, Then why did they put it in you? Lyra smiled bitterly. Because they couldn't control it themselves. So they made me carry it. When the general died, they said it was me, but it was the mark. It protected me when he tried to. She stopped. Her eyes turned glassy. John didn't ask her to continue. He could already guess what happened. After a while, she whispered, Now the Empire wants the mark back. Not me, just the code. And what happens if they get it? Lyra looked straight into his eyes. Then every human colony, including yours, will burn. John felt cold all over. He looked down the dark tunnel, thinking fast. He was just an engineer and a nobody. But now he was standing beside something that could start a war. He took a deep breath. Okay, then we don't let them get it. Lyra blinked, confused. You don't understand, John. This isn't your fight. He looked at her seriously. It became my fight the moment I opened that cage. A small sound, half surprise, half sadness, only escaped her lips. For a moment, her eyes softened. No one had ever talked to her like that before. Then from behind them, a metallic clank echoed through the tunnel. Lyra's body went tense. They're here, she whispered. John turned off the flashlight. The darkness swallowed them. The sound grew louder. Heavy boots, metallic steps, and the sharp buzz of drones. He grabbed her hand. Come on, this way. They ran through a narrow passage, water splashing under their boots. The tunnel curved and opened into a wider chamber full of old machines. Rusty robots lay broken on the floor, their eyes dim. This place used to be a factory, John said quietly. No one comes here anymore. Lyra looked around. It smells like ghosts, he almost smiled. That's just oil. Before she could answer, a beam of red light flashed across the wall. The drones had found them. John dove behind an old generator, pulling Lyra with him. The air filled with the hum of energy weapons charging, she whispered. I can stop them for a few seconds. But not for long, no, he said quickly. You'll burn yourself again. I must, she said firmly. It's either that or they take me. Before he could argue, she stepped out from behind the generator. Her eyes flared bright violet, and her voice echoed through the metal walls. The drones froze midair. The light around her pulsed, once, twice, and then exploded outward in a silent wave. The air rippled like water. The drones dropped, their red lights flickering out. John stood slowly, watching as Lyra fell to her knees. The glow from her mark dimmed again. He rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the floor. Hey, stay with me, he said. You did great, her eyes half opened. You don't understand, she whispered weakly. Every time I use it, the mark wakes, it learns. Soon it won't listen to me. He looked down at the small circle glowing under her skin. It was pulsing faster now, like a heartbeat. Then we find a way to remove it, John said. There has to be someone who can. She shook her head. No one can. It's bonded to my soul. John clenched his jaw. There has to be something. Maybe the smuggler docks. I know someone who works with old alien tech. Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of quiet wonder. Why are you helping me? He smiled sadly. Because someone has to. She didn't reply. But for the first time, she didn't look afraid. Then, somewhere above them, a deep voice echoed through the tunnel speakers. Unit 7 to command. We have visual. Target confirmed. Human and Vega female heading to Section Delta. John cursed under his breath. They found us again. Lyra's mark flickered once more. We can't run forever, she said softly. You'll die because of me. John helped her to her feet. Then I'll die doing something right. As they hurried into the next corridor, the sound of engines thundered through the walls, not drones this time, but ships, far above. The colony's skies turned red. The Empire had arrived. The underlevels of Colony 9 were nothing like the shining towers above. Down here, the air was thick with smoke, dust, and secrets. Pipes hissed like snakes in the dark. The walls were painted with old graffiti and glowing fungus. Every sound echoed. Footsteps, whispers, the distant hum of machines that hadn't stopped in 100 years. John held a small lantern in one hand, guiding Lyra through the maze of tunnels. The light reflected off her silver skin, making her look like a ghost moving through metal shadows. Where are we? Lyra asked softly. The old service zone, John replied. They built these tunnels before the colony expanded. No one comes down here anymore. Perfect place to disappear. She looked around carefully. Perfect place to die, too. He smiled slightly. Let's hope for the first option. They walked in silence for a while. Every now and then, John checked his wrist scanner. No signals yet, but he knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. The Empire's reach was everywhere. Finally, they reached a large, rusted door marked Dock Access C-12. John tried the handle, but it didn't move. Locked, he muttered. Figures. He opened his toolkit and started connecting wires. Sparks flashed as he tried to override the system. Lyra watched him with curious eyes. You fix things, she said. That's my job, John replied. Used to fix power lines, broken drones, generators. Never thought I'd be fixing an escape plan. Lyra tilted her head slightly. You humans always try to fix what you break. He paused and looked up at her. You think we broke you? She didn't answer right away. Not you, she said softly. But your kind. The lock clicked open. The door slid aside with a groan. Behind it was a wide platform, a hidden smuggler port deep under the colony. Ships of all shapes rested there, some half-broken, some glowing faintly with alien energy. The air smelled of oil and ozone. John let out a breath. We made it. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide. So many ships. How do we know which one can fly? Before John could answer, a voice echoed from above. Depends what you're buying. Both of them looked up sharply. From the shadows of a rusted catwalk, a man climbed down. Tall, wearing a long coat, face covered by a mask with blinking blue lights. John sighed. Of course. The one guy I didn't want to see. The masked man chuckled. Oh, come on, Johnny boy. That's no way to greet your old friend. Lyra looked between them. You know him? Yeah, John said quietly. Name's Rafe. Used to be my partner before he started smuggling Empire weapons. Rafe's mask flickered as he smiled. Still judging people, huh? You never change. So what brings you to my little corner of hell? John hesitated. We need a ship. Something off-grid. Rafe's eyes drifted to Lyra. And who's the pretty light show? Lyra's violet eyes flashed. Someone you shouldn't stare at. Rafe laughed. Feisty. I like that. He turned back to John. Let me guess. She's the reason the Empire's scanners are losing their minds right now? John didn't answer. Rafe whistled. Thought so. You really stepped in it this time, Lyra whispered. Can he help us? Rafe heard her. Help? Sure, for a price. John clenched his jaw. Rafe, I don't have time for games. Rafe shrugged. No games, old friend. You want a ship, you pay. Either in credits or in secrets. Before John could respond, a sudden explosion shook the ground. Metal dust rained from above. Red alarms started flashing. Rafe looked up, curse muffled behind his mask. Damn it, they found the port. Lyra's mark began to glow again, reacting to the danger. John, she said quickly. They're close. Rafe pulled out a plasma pistol. You brought the Empire right to my doorstep, genius. John grabbed her hand. We have to move. They ran down the platform as drones poured in through the ceiling vents, firing red beams of light. Rafe shot at them, his weapon lighting up the tunnel like thunder. Lyra stumbled, energy flickering from her skin. They're tracking my mark, she gasped. I can feel it. John turned to her. Can you block it again? Not for long. Then do it. She raised her hand. The air shimmered, and for a few seconds everything went silent. The drones froze mid-air, lights blinking. Rafe whistled again. Impressive. Remind me not to make her mad, John shouted. Which ship's fastest? Rafe pointed. That one, the black freighter at the end. But it's unstable. Perfect, John said. They sprinted toward it. Rafe followed, firing at more drones that burst through the walls. As they reached the ship, John climbed into the pilot's seat and started pressing switches. The engines coughed, then roared to life. Lyra sat beside him, breathing hard. Her glow dimmed again, her energy spent. Strap in, John said. We're leaving this place. Rafe jumped aboard just as the hangar doors began to close. If this thing explodes, I'm haunting you, Miller. John smirked. Get in line. The freighter lifted off the ground, shaking violently. Through the cockpit window, they saw soldiers flooding the dock, firing plasma rounds. Come on, come on, John muttered, pushing the throttle. The ship shot forward just as the ceiling collapsed behind them. Fire and debris filled the dock, but they were already rising into the night sky. For a moment, there was silence, only the hum of the engines and the sound of Lyra's slow breathing. Rafe leaned back, catching his breath. Well, congratulations, Johnny. You just made both of us criminals. John glanced at Lyra. Her eyes were half closed, her voice barely a whisper. Welcome to the underlevels, she said. Once you enter, you never come back. And as the freighter disappeared into the dark clouds above Colony 9, the Empire's ships turned to follow, their red lights glowing like demons hunting in the night. The black freighter drifted quietly through the storm clouds of Colony 9's sky. Lightning flashed outside, painting the cockpit silver and white. Inside, the air was heavy, a mix of smoke, sweat, and fear. John Miller sat at the controls, eyes fixed on the radar. Red blips pulsed behind them, Empire scouts hunting them across the sky. Rafe was in the back, checking the power lines. Engines are weak, he said. We've got maybe 20 minutes before they fry. 20's enough, John replied. We just need to reach the outer rings. Lyra sat near the window, staring out into the storm. Her reflection in the glass looked like another person, calm, glowing faintly yet broken inside. John glanced at her. You haven't said a word since we left. She didn't turn. Words can't fix what's coming. Maybe not, he said softly, but they help me stay sane. She looked at him then, her violet eyes dim. You still think you can save me, don't you? He shrugged. It's not about saving you. It's about doing what's right. Lyra smiled sadly. Humans always say that before they destroy something. Before John could answer, the ship shook violently. A bolt of lightning hit the right wing. Rafe cursed. We're losing altitude.
Hold tight.
The freighter spun downward, alarm screaming. John gripped the controls and pulled hard. The engines coughed, then steadied. They burst through the clouds and glided into open space. The sight was breathtaking. Stars like frozen sparks, a sea of black and gold. John exhaled. We made it, but Lyra didn't look relieved. She whispered, No one ever makes it. Not with me. A past written in fire later, when Rafe went to repair the reactor, Lyra finally spoke again. Her voice was low, like a confession whispered to the stars. Do you know why the Empire fears me, John Miller? He looked up from the navigation console. Because of that mark? She nodded slowly. Yes, but it's not just a weapon. It's history. My people on the Vega were creators, not fighters. We built cities made of light, powered by thought. Then the Empire came. They wanted the core, the heart of our world. They said they came in peace, until they found out what we could do. John listened quietly. They burned our skies, she continued. The general you humans call a hero, he led that invasion. He took me as his prize, said I was his peace token. Her hands trembled. He made me wear this mark, said it would keep me obedient. But the mark had its own mind. It changed. It protected me. John's throat felt dry. You mean it killed him? She nodded. One night he tried to erase the code from me. The mark reacted. It tore him apart. They called it murder. I called it freedom. She looked down, her voice shaking. After that, they hunted me. They used my husband's death as an excuse to enslave every Vega. I ran, but I couldn't run far enough. John stood silently, unable to speak. The woman sitting before him wasn't just a fugitive. She was a survivor of genocide. After a moment, he said quietly, You didn't kill him. He killed himself the moment he treated you like property. Lyra's eyes glistened. You say that because you weren't there. Maybe, John said. But I'm here now. For the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with trust. A small fragile thing like light in the dark. The Empire's shadow Rafe returned, wiping grease from his gloves. Bad news, he said. They tagged us before we hit orbit. We've got a tracker on the hull, John swore. Can you remove it? Not unless we land. And if we land, they'll find us faster. Lyra closed her eyes, thinking. There's a dead zone, a nebula near the outer rim. If we reach it, the tracker won't send signals. Rafe raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? Because that's where Vega refugees hid before the Empire wiped them out, she said flatly. Their ships never sent signals again. Rafe looked at John. Sounds like a graveyard. John met Lyra's eyes. Then that's where we go. The connection hours passed as they crossed the empty stretch of space. Lyra sat near John, her hands folded, her glow faint and peaceful now. She asked softly, Why are you helping me, John? You could have walked away that night. He smiled a little. Because you looked at me like I wasn't just another human. She tilted her head. And what did you see in me? He hesitated. Someone worth saving. Her lips curved slightly. Not a full smile, but something close. You're strange, John Miller. Yeah, I get that a lot. The ship's lights dimmed for a moment. The mark on her neck glowed faintly, responding to something unseen. What's wrong? John asked. Lyra's eyes widened. They found us. The tracker's transmitting faster now. Rafe's voice came from the back. They're here, John. Empire cruisers and 2 of them. Red lights flashed across the cockpit. Outside, massive warships emerged from the blackness like monsters waking from sleep. John tightened his grip on the controls. Hold on. Lyra's mark pulsed violently. She gasped, grabbing her chest. Lyra? Her voice cracked. The mark. They're trying to control it remotely. John reached for her hand. Fight it. Don't let them win. Her body shook. The mark glowed brighter and brighter, filling the cockpit with blue light. For a second, John saw visions in her eyes. Cities of crystal, oceans of light, voices crying in a forgotten language. Then, just as suddenly, the light faded. Lyra collapsed into his arms. Rafe yelled, "The cruisers are firing! Shields down!" John looked down at Lyra. She was breathing, but barely. He whispered, "Hang on, Lyra. I won't lose you." Her eyes fluttered open for a second. "John," she breathed. "If I lose control, promise you'll end it." He froze. "No, I don't make promises like that." She smiled weakly. "Then make one you can keep." John's jaw tightened. "I'll keep you alive. That's my promise." And as the freighter dove toward the glowing storm of the nebula, the Empire ships followed, their red beams slicing through the dark. But inside that storm, something ancient was waiting, and the truth about Lyra's mark was about to awaken. The freighter trembled as it entered the violet storm of the nebula. Lightning shaped like spirals danced across the windows, and strange echoes whispered in the static, voices that didn't belong to any human radio. John gripped the controls, forcing the ship steady. The energy outside was alive, flowing like rivers of light. Even Rafe, the smuggler who laughed at death, stood silent now. "What is this place?" he muttered. Lyra, still weak, whispered, "The Veil of Vega. My people once hid here. The nebula remembers us." John frowned. "Remembers?" She nodded slowly. "Everything here has memory, every spark, every particle. It's the only place the Empire cannot see." For a moment there was peace. No red dots on the scanner. No pursuit. Just silence and glowing clouds drifting like ghosts around the ship. But peace in their lives never lasted. The signal Rafe's communicator beeped. A soft, coded pulse blinked on his wristband, faint but familiar. He turned slightly, hiding it from John. Message received. Coordinates locked. Deliver the target and the bounty doubles. He stared at the words for a long time. The bounty was enough to buy him 10 lifetimes of freedom. He looked at Lyra, half-conscious, head resting on the window. Then at John, focused, loyal, stupidly brave. "Don't do it," a voice whispered in his head. But greed has no ears. He turned off the communicator and slipped it into his jacket. The calm before the storm, John was still flying, trying to repair the damage from their last hit. "If we can fix the stabilizers, we might jump out of here in 2 hours." Rafe nodded slowly. "Sure, 2 hours." Lyra stirred from her half-sleep. Her eyes glowed faintly. "Someone's lying," she whispered. John turned. "What?" She looked at Rafe. The air around him. "It moves wrong," Rafe laughed. "She's seeing ghosts again." But John saw the way. Rafe's hand hovered near his holster. "Rafe," he said carefully, "you've been quiet." "Too quiet." Rafe smiled behind his mask. "Just thinking about old times, partner. Remember when we used to fix broken satellites? You always said people couldn't change." John's eyes narrowed. "Yeah, and I was usually right." Rafe's pistol came up fast, but John was faster. He knocked it aside, and the plasma shot burned through the ceiling. The cockpit filled with the smell of ozone and betrayal. Lyra gasped, trying to stand. Rafe shouted, "You don't get it, John. The Empire's offering me more than you'll ever have. Freedom. A clean record. I can finally leave this cursed system." John ducked behind the console as another blast hit the wall. "They'll kill you the moment you deliver her." "Maybe," Rafe said, "but at least I'll die rich." The fight in the storm, John lunged forward, tackling Rafe. The two men crashed into the cockpit wall. The ship shook violently as they fought, fists metal and rage. Lyra tried to rise, but her energy was fading. Her mark flickered in rhythm with the storm outside. Every flash of lightning made it pulse brighter. "Stop," she cried. "The nebula feeds on anger, and it's alive." But neither man hurt her. Rafe punched John hard, knocking him back. He raised his pistol again. "Goodbye, old friend." Before he could shoot, a beam of blue light burst from Lyra's hand. It hit Rafe square in the chest, throwing him across the cabin. His mask shattered. He gasped, eyes wide, body trembling. What did you do to me?" Lyra's voice was soft but deadly. "I showed you what your heart truly looks like." Rafe screamed as blue fire crawled across his skin, showing images. His crimes, his betrayals, his greed. Then the light faded, leaving him unconscious, smoke rising from his jacket. John stared at her in shock. You didn't kill him? She shook her head weakly. No, the mark doesn't kill without purpose. It judges. He looked at Rafe's still body, then back at her glowing eyes. And what would it judge me for? Lyra smiled faintly. You still think you can save what's already broken? That's your curse, John Miller. Before he could reply, alarms blared. The cruisers found us again. Rafe's communicator, still active, was blinking red on the floor. John cursed. He led them right to us. Outside, the nebula lit up as massive Empire ships burst through the clouds, their cannons glowing. Lyra, John said, can you cloak us again? She shook her head. The storm drains me, but there's another way. What way? Her eyes glowed brighter now, painfully bright. The mark connects to the nebula. If I open it fully, the Empire won't find us, but I won't survive it. John grabbed her arm. No, there has to be another choice. There isn't, she whispered. The mark was made from the same energy as this place. If I merge with it, it will destroy everything within its reach, and including them. And you? She looked at him, tears forming in her glowing eyes. I will become part of it. Just like my people, he shook his head. I won't let you die, she smiled gently. You can't stop light from shining, John. Before he could say another word, she pressed her hand to the window. The mark blazed like a newborn star. The entire nebula responded, a wave of blue light spreading outward, swallowing the Empire ships. Their cannons fired uselessly as the light consumed them, turning metal to dust. Inside the freighter, alarms screamed. The ship was shaking apart. John ran to her. Lyra, stop! You'll burn yourself out! She looked at him, her voice fading. Promise me one thing. Anything. Remember us. The Vega. Tell your people we existed. He held her hand tightly. I swear. The last thing he saw was her smile, bright, peaceful, eternal. Then light filled everything. Aftermath. When John opened his eyes, the cockpit was silent. The nebula was gone. The freighter floated alone in empty space. Rafe was still breathing beside him, burned but alive. Lyra was gone. Only a faint shimmer of light danced where she had stood, like dust made of stars. John reached out to it. The shimmer touched his hand and vanished. He whispered, You did it. You saved us. Rafe groaned awake, coughing. What happened? John didn't answer. He looked at the stars ahead, brighter now, clearer than he'd ever seen. And deep in his heart, he heard Lyra's voice, soft and distant. Light never dies, John Miller. It just changes shape. The stars were quiet. The storm of the nebula was gone, leaving only silence and drifting ash. The black freighter floated through empty space like a ghost ship. Engines dead, hull cracked, and lights flickering weakly. Inside, John Miller sat at the controls, staring into the endless dark. He hadn't moved in hours. The chair creaked each time the ship drifted slightly. His reflection in the cracked glass looked older, harder. Across from him, Rafe lay unconscious, wrapped in a torn blanket. The burns across his chest glowed faintly blue, the mark Lyra's energy had left behind. John touched the control panel, whispering, Still here, Lyra? I kept your ship flying, but only the hum of the dying engines answered him. A voice in the silence. Then, softly, like a dream, a voice came through the static. John Miller. You kept your promise, John froze. The voice was faint, but he knew it. It was Lyra. Lyra, he said quickly, scanning the comms. Where are you? Everywhere, she whispered. I became part of the nebula. The mark didn't destroy me, it changed me. Her voice was like wind and music mixed together. The Vega never died, John. We just moved beyond flesh. The Empire couldn't see what light could become. John's throat tightened. You saved us all? No, she said gently. You did. You made a choice no one else would. You saw me as more than a weapon. The ship's lights flickered softly as if her energy flowed through them. The walls glowed faintly blue, alive again. Lyra, he whispered, if you're still here, come back, please. I can't come back, but I can help you one last time. The return of the Empire. Before John could ask what she meant, the radar began to beep. Red dots, not one, dozens. Empire ships, damn it, he muttered, slamming the controls. How are they still tracking us? Fragments of their fleet survived, Lyra's voice echoed. They want what's left of me. They think I'm still inside you. John's jaw tightened. Then they're right. Rafe groaned awake. You can't fight them, John, we're done. No, John said coldly. Not yet. He strapped himself into the pilot's seat and powered up what was left of the freighter's systems. The engines roared weakly to life, glowing the same blue hue as Lyra's mark. The scanners showed at least 10 Empire cruisers closing in. Their comms filled with static and commands. Surrender, human vessel. You carry forbidden energy. Hand it over or be destroyed, John smirked. You'll have to catch me first. The flight threw fire. The freighter shot forward, diving into the debris field of old ships. Explosions flared around them as the Empire's cannons fired. Metal fragments spun like knives in space. Rafe held onto the co-pilot's seat, shouting, "You're insane!" John's eyes stayed locked ahead. That's nothing new. One of the cruisers fired a plasma beam, slicing off part of their left wing. The ship jolted violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. "John," Lyra's voice came again, "you can't outfly them forever. Then I'll take them with me. You'll die." He smiled faintly. "Then I'll die for something real." For a moment, the cockpit went quiet, except for the sound of the failing engines. Then Lyra whispered, almost tenderly, "If this is your choice, then you won't fly alone." The mark awakens. The mark, the same blue energy that once lived in Lyra, began to spread through the ship's wiring. Lights flared, systems came alive, and the hull began to glow like a living star. Rafe stared in shock. "John, what's happening?" John gripped the controls tighter. "She's flying with us." Outside, the Empire ships closed in, a swarm of metal beasts ready to kill. But the freighter's glow intensified until it was brighter than the sun. "Do you trust me?" Lyra's voice whispered in his mind. "Always," John said. "Then close your eyes." John obeyed. The freighter burst forward, faster than light, faster than thought, leaving a trail of blue fire behind. The Empire cruisers fired, but their beams bent, curved, and vanished into the light. Lyra's energy expanded outward, forming a massive wave across the stars. One by one, the Empire ships were caught in it. Their systems failed, their engines froze. Their power vanished, swallowed by silence. When the light faded, only one ship remained, the freighter, floating peacefully among the ruins of a dead fleet. Light never dies. Smoke filled the cockpit. Alarm screamed, then went quiet. John opened his eyes slowly. Everything was calm again. Stars shone clear and still outside the window. Rafe looked at him in disbelief. You destroyed them all." John didn't answer. He was staring at the faint glow moving across the ship's console. A small blue symbol, shaped like the mark on Lyra's neck. He touched it gently. "Lyra, I'm here," her voice whispered faintly. "Not all light fades, John Miller. It just finds a new home." Tears filled his eyes, but he smiled. "Then I guess this ship is yours now." "No," she said softly. "It's ours." Outside the window, the nebula began to reform in the distance. Slow, graceful, beautiful. And for a moment he saw her shape in the stars. Her face made of light, smiling down at him. Epilogue. The Legend of the Vega. Light months later, rumors spread across the colonies. They spoke of a lone human ship that had destroyed an entire Empire fleet. Some said it was a weapon, others said it was a ghost. But travelers who passed near the old Vega Nebula told the same story, of a light that followed them through the dark. A woman's voice, singing softly through their radios. They called it the Vega Light, and deep inside his ship, John Miller kept flying, fixing broken engines, sending signals into space and listening. Every night before sleep, he would whisper, "Good night, Lyra." And somewhere beyond the stars, the light always answered back, "Good night, John Miller," until the next sunrise, the end.